I have moved a lot on the position of voting in the past 4 years. At the beginning, when I started this podcast with Carter, I would have been the first to say, like, without having ever really thought about it, just taking for granted that, yeah, we should have more people voting. Like, should make it really easy and have the most number of people possible, which is what a lot of non-thinking people say. But now,
because it's taken as a given without examination that more voting is good. Like, no one even questions it. It's not ever presented as a thing to think about.
Yeah.
It's just a truth. Yeah.
And so the more I thought about it over the past 4 years, and after hearing you talk about it, the more I thought, no, it should not be easy to vote. It should not be mail-in. You should have to go and stand in line and verify your ID. I mean, you stand in line for 20 minutes for a caramel macchiato. I mean, the least you can do is stand in line to cast your ballot if you care that much.
Try going to the DMV.
Right. And if it's something you care about, you will do it. And secondly, you shouldn't have to be bribed with free concerts. It's like, hey, in order, you know who we need voting? The kind of person who won't vote unless we give them a free concert. Like, well, I didn't care that much to vote, but I really wanted to see that Fleet Foxes
Lady
show.
Gaga.
Like, I'm not that motivated to vote. But then they were like, with some crap. But then Justin Timberlake I got a free concert if I would, like, I don't need those people voting. I don't want them voting. If you need to be bribed, like, why? Why are you? So I was thinking about it, and I know that you were primarily a non-voter, but until recently you voted because you thought it was very important. And I was always a straight down the ticket Democratic voter until 2018. I voted for a Republican, and then anyway, I was talking with my fella, and he has typically been a non-voter. He's more like you. He voted this time, but we were joking. So here's what I was thinking.
Sorry, go ahead.
What if we started a nonprofit called Don't Vote, and we bribe you not to vote? And
this is my dream. You know how long I've wanted to do that, Carrie?
Because, hear me out. I know you want to do it, but in case anybody in the audience thinks this is crazy. Every time we vote, and especially this time, since they say it was like the largest turnout ever, which I don't know if I believe that, but if it's true, well, then look at how much we just showed them, the sheep, we just showed them that we believe in the system. It's like, oh, look how many people participated in the system this time, in the theater of this election. And so I'm almost like, you know what, if enough of us quit voting, the system might fail. If enough of us said no more. So what if we had, I don't know if it would be in jest or in seriousness, but what if we had a nonprofit called Don't Vote? We organize our own performers or whatever bribes we want. If you prove you didn't vote, then you get to come to the show.
You have to prove you're not registered. You like look up your name and I don't know. The thing with all those like rock the vote and all that kind of crap is it's targeted at, I mean, you get the wrong people by self-selection because you're getting people, like you said, who I wouldn't vote except for I get to hear Lady Gaga or whatever it is. But also you end up with, it's usually like, think about the people who are going to be influenced by a rock the vote thing, right? They're probably young and uninformed because those are the people that tends to go to those kind of things more. I mean, like, who listens to Billie Eilish, right? I mean, not a lot of, a lot of hedge fund managers, not that we want a lot of them voting either.
Did you say Billy Idol?
Billie Eilish.
I'm making an old person's joke.
Oh, okay. I only know who she is because of my daughter, and I always call her Billie Eilish, which pisses my daughter off. But I mean, imagine a thing where it was like, well, as soon as you file your corporate taxes, you automatically get registered to vote. People would be so angry about like, how dare you encourage CEOs and people with businesses to vote? No, we have to encourage people who are going to think about voting only in the middle of a concert, because that's when they think about voting.
Right.
The whole thing's so stupid.
I don't know.
And you know,
and the more I thought about it, I mean, you have, for anyone who's new, they may not know, you believe that if you receive a paycheck from the government, you should not be able to vote because
that is correct.
Because you have a conflict of interest. And you believe that not just about politicians, but about people on government
Everyone.
programs. And you believe that about the military and the police, don't you?
Military, police, government contractors, anyone who gets any kind of government assistance, anyone on unemployment, anyone who gets anyone who derives money from the government. If you get money from the government, I believe you have a conflict of interest. And I know a lot of conservatives are like, how dare you not let the military vote? They're giving their lives for blah, 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 blah. You know what? Because I stand on principle. It's still a conflict of interest. Even if I might like the way that they're more likely to vote, it's still a conflict of interest. They're getting their paycheck from the government. So, and by the way, I think that if you are someone who believes that the military votes more the way that you want and are pissed off about that, I think if we got rid of all the military voting and all the other things I'm talking about, you'd still end up on the better side of that balance sheet. Like things would still work out for you. Because there's a hell of a lot more people getting their money from the government through welfare and other programs than are getting paid from the military. So, but yeah, like you're a bureaucrat. You work in you're part of the deep state. You work in some government job. No, you can't vote. And why should you be able to vote? It just doesn't make any sense.
And on like public school teachers too, right? Like that would.
I mean, yes, public. If you're funded publicly, I could see an argument for if you're at a public school that receives zero federal funding, then you can vote in federal elections, but you can't vote in elections that are related to where your funding comes from. Like, and people think this is such a crazy idea, and like, how dare I be against universal suffrage? And they have a right to be heard. In any other election. And any other thing, like we recognize conflict of interest. We like other like private things. We recognize conflicts of interest and we avoid them. This isn't. I didn't make up the idea of recognizing that people have conflicts of interest and need to be removed from the equation when they have a conflict of interest. It's not that crazy, but people get really upset about it because universal suffrage, which, by the way, the founding fathers were terrified of and tried to prevent universal suffrage from being a thing that could affect the politics of the country too much. Like, that's why we have representatives. That's why we have a constitution that theoretically limits what the hell people can vote for. You're not supposed to be able to vote. Theoretically, all these gun control laws are illegal. They're unconstitutional. They actually, you can vote for them, but they're actually, the founding fathers imagined that these would all be thrown out because they're clearly unconstitutional. You actually can't vote for that stuff. You're not allowed. You don't get to have a say in taking someone else's guns away. You don't. That was the idea.
The public votes on the gun control laws. Yeah, they're not supposed to. It's not supposed to be up for public vote.
Even the Senate, even Congress, like even the executive branch, they're like, the Constitution makes it clear they're not allowed to do that. The fact that they do it and everyone ignores the Constitution is like, okay, I get that's what goes on, but that wasn't the intent at all. This idea that like somehow the will of the people is better than the principles laid out in the Constitution is ridiculous. That's not at all what was intended by the founding. And by the way, it was progressives, I believe it was progressives who first pushed this idea in the late 19th century. This idea that like, well, we need to progress beyond the Constitution made sense at the time, but it's old technology and we need to update it for the new era. Like that's a progressive attitude. And clearly there were some problems with the Constitution. I mean, there was slavery and that kind of stuff embedded in it that needed to be fixed. But that's not what the progressives meant. They meant like, oh, well, these ideas, the principles on which the Constitution were built were like, they worked then, but principles can't survive hundreds of years. We need to update our principles. And they moved away from the idea that there were natural rights that were being enshrined by the government or recognized by the government in the Constitution, and toward the idea that there was this ever accruing set of rights. There would be a right to health care and a right to, I don't know, what else? Right to housing, a right to food. Like they believe that these things are rights, but those aren't rights. Their goal was to throw away the natural law-based idea of individual rights and replace it with this bastardization of the concept of rights that was like goodies that we think mama government should provide. Let's move that way. I mean, that's why I hate progressives, well, not progressives as people, but that's why I hate progressive ideology. It's never been about individual rights, ever. It was originally about destroying the concept of rights. That's what it was about. So,
I would push back on that just a little. I think it was about helping people and helping people who
those are called charities, not progressives.
I know, but I'm saying that's what the belief system is about, and that's what a lot of progressives believe in. It's just that they see the government as being responsible for that instead of.
Well, what makes them progressive and not compassionate charities is the government, is their view on the government's role. That's what makes them progressive.
Right.
Someone who doesn't have that view but still believes we should help people and runs charities is not called the progressive. They're called the progressive precisely because they want to undermine the concept of rights.
They think it's the government's job to
undermine the concept of rights. Yes.
To take care of people by undermining the concept of rights. But
yeah, but I mean, look up progressives historically. That's what that is, right? They didn't make. I'm not putting words in their mouth. This is what they said. Right?
I know,
right.
I just want to make sure I put that part in there. It's in order to take care of people. That's what they think will happen.
Whatever. The road to hell. I mean, it's to save the children. Okay, whatever.